No one will phone on the landline, will they? It'll be fine. No one ever does.
No, never. We had a Sainsbury's order scheduled between 8 and 9, and the guy came at about 8:30, fortunately. So,
oh well, so that's done.
We escaped that one. Yeah, we're all good.
Welcome back to the Measuring Up podcast, episode 19, the UK's first, and as far as we know, only commercial joinery podcast. I'm Andy MacLellan, and I run a joinery business up in Newcastle upon Tyne.
And I'm Peter Millard, and as well as running a virtual 10-minute workshop for the YouTube land, I also run a small but imperfectly formed workshop in the Garden Spot of West London.
And every couple of weeks we get together and we chat about all things joinery and cabinet making related, and running your own business, and whinging about YouTube and various other topics that we just have a bit of a chat, don't we?
We do. It's I would miss it if we didn't have it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Sometimes you've just got to get these things off your chest.
I think so.
And, of course, you know what it is? It's Christmas Eve, isn't it?
It is in podcast land, yes.
So Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
I hope your preparations have all gone according to plan and you haven't left things too late. So a bit of kind of... Hold on, let me just press play on this. A bit of Christmas jangle on the show.
Nice.
Do you like that?
That's lovely.
And of course, the next show, the final show of the season, will be early. It'll be in 1 week's time. So today is the penultimate show of this season, and next week will be the final episode of this season on New Year's Eve.
Epic.
And if you run out of things to do in the little break we're having, you can just sign up on Patreon and listen to all of our after shows.
That is very true. That's an excellent way of catching up on all the gossip that we've managed to put together. Yeah.
So, how have you been this week, Peter?
I've been stupidly busy this week. I've been disappointed by clients. I've been run myself into the ground. Did a big install. I did a no video a few weeks back, just trying to explain to the folks that you don't get to see everything because you're just too busy. And part of what I was showing, why I wasn't showing that on video, was a study, a desk, spare room study install, refurb. So it's a little sort of day bed with storage under it, a desk, a couple of tall shelf units and a couple of wall units. Not terribly interesting, like a million other things I've done before, painted in Joa's white this time, which is one of the many shades of beige from the Farrow Ball. But the only time the client had to have the install done was Saturday last week. And I got it all done in a day, but it was a long old day. So 11 hours grafting.
Oh, that's a long one.
Started at 8 and finished at 7, and it was one of those things where you almost shouldn't be driving. You're so tired, you're so exhausted. It's dark, it's raining. If I could have just walked home, but I had a van full of gear. So if I could have just walked away from it, I would have done. But I had to drive back, and it was just knackering. And the next day, I felt absolutely wretched. I thought I was coming down with a cold. Everything ached because I'm up and down. This is on the third floor of a loft conversion, way up in the attic. Tiny little room. I put some pictures up on Instagram. Really sort of just difficult, awkward, horrible situation to have to deal with, and I was just felt wretched on the Sunday. Bounced back okay, and then this last week I've got the final sort of big install to do of the year, and it's 3 sets of shelves. And I'd asked them they'd changed their mind on this a couple of times. And I'd ask them, you can have a turn in a minute, by the way.
No, you go for it. You go for it. I'm enjoying it.
I need to vent.
It makes me feel better about my job.
And they changed their minds a couple of times on just 3 sets of Alco shelves. No big deal. But so largish, a metre wide on 2 of them, and about 600 wide on another, not quite a couple of metres tall, but substantial, sizable. But they changed their mind on a couple of things. So I just shot them a quick email, just to ask them, just to confirm the thickness of the shelves, because they've changed their minds on that twice, and the number of shelves, because they want fixed shelves now. And, that's a one-shot deal, because once those shelves are fixed, they're not moving again. And I shot him an email on that Sunday when I was feeling particularly wretched, and I didn't get I got a phone call from them on the Friday. Now, I was supposed to actually be installing this today, and I didn't get a phone call confirming measurements until late last Friday.
Brilliant.
So obviously everything's a little bit late, because until they can confirm the measurements, you can confirm dimensions, particularly thickness of the shelves. I can't organise a cut list because it was all a bit late. My timber yard are really, really busy, so I had to get the sheets back and cut them myself like an animal, cutting my own MDF, for God's sake. What kind of a country is this? And it's just been a bit of a slog, so I'm sort of a bit delayed on that. I've got the first one actually nailed together late yesterday, and I've popped in for an hour this morning just to get the backs on, and I'm just starting the second one. I've got 2 more to do and get them painted over the weekend, ready to install on Monday, because they can't do Tuesday or Wednesday, so Monday or Thursday are the only days they can do.
So you're going for Monday then?
So I'm going for Monday with the potential to run into Thursday if we need to. And I was hoping to get in. I hope to have gotten on a little bit further with the whole project by today, so that I could have got a coat of primer on them, then shot over there, because it's local, it's only 5 minutes away. A shot over there and at least get the battening in, because that gets me started. But I'm not going to have time. I need to press on, so I need to be in the workshop. So yeah.
So I saw the pictures of the shelves on Instagram.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at 10 Minute Workshop, or at Gosforth Handyman on Instagram.
Gosforth Handyman on Instagram, yes, if you want to follow us both.
Yeah, we post regularly on Instagram. I'm trying to post daily to Instagram, both video, both some little pictures, photographs, and some video as well. So we're worth a follow. Plus, follow us, the podcast, of course, at Measuring Up Podcast on Instagram too. We don't post much there, but we do post a little bit when the good stuff comes out. So I put a couple of snaps up on Instagram this morning, because I've been in early and I've been finishing late, so I've been sort of doing some early morning, late night scenes of the mean streets of West London. Yeah.
You've been grafting.
Mm.
Yeah, I was going to say the shelves looked very sturdy.
They are solid, yeah.
So explain how you're making those. Actually, and I noticed in one of the pictures, one of them's got like proper joints in. Like lap joints?
Yeah. That's very observant. That was from quite a distance.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you'd just drawn them on for the camera.
No. It's
the real joints.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm using real tree wood, tree meat. Yeah, tree meat as well.
Tree meat and real joints.
And real joints. It's, using a hand plane, all kinds. Splinters and sawdust and swearing. That's what it's all about in a minute. It's my life.
You can get machines for that,
Yeah.
So yeah, explain how you're doing the shelves.
Okay, so because they're big pieces, so it's 1 metre wide and 2 metres high, more or less, and they're going on battens, so it's pre-made and pre-scribed. I wonder if that's where the word comes from. So the battens, I mean, it took me a while to figure out how to do this, because they didn't want floating shelves with a face frame planted on, and to be honest, that would take too long to install anyway. They didn't want shelves thicker than 40mm, because he's a painter, he's an artist, and the aesthetics are very important, which is fair. So I was trying to figure out how I could pre-make them and pre-paint them, so they just kind of slot in. They've got to be made in sections, because they're just too big to go in one go. And obviously they're sizable, so there'll be quite a lot of weight to be borne. So what I've done is, and this is going to be really hard to explain, but the shelves themselves are made of 1.25 redwood, 1.25 by 6, 1.25 by 4. So it comes out with a plain size of about 28mm, and then I've put a 6mm cladding on this top and bottom, MDF, just to get a nice clean paint finish. I know that's not adding any strength. The battens on the wall, obviously like a floating type shelf, you put a batten on the wall, and that's quite deep. That's, almost 3 inches deep, but with a little half-lap rebate in it. And I've done the same in the corresponding bottom half of the bottom shelf, if you see what I mean. Yeah? So there's a 6mm skin that's scribed into the alcove.
Yeah.
Then underneath that, there's 2 pieces of 1.25 by 6 or by 4, depending on the depth, because there's 2 different depths of shelf, glued very securely to that 6mm skin to form the bottom shelf. Then that's half-lapped, rebated around the 3 sides that bear into the alcove. So that slots into the battening, yeah? So the rebate on the battening, and then that sits in pretty snugly. I've given myself a couple of mil wiggle room on that, just in case the scribing isn't perfect, first time out. And then I can glue and clamp a bottom skin onto that so that it's all nice and flush, and then just apply a 6mm face frame to the front of it.
Right.
And that'll go all the way around.
Nifty. I'm looking forward to seeing some pictures of the install. It sounds quite
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where we won't get to see any actual video of the install. It's really annoying because it is actually a really interesting build. And I've done one before that went in a similar way. Because the other little... What I do... Again, this is really hard to explain. I probably need to do a video about it, but... Yeah, I just need more time to do that. I've got because we've got 40mm thick shelves. If you imagine the sides of the carcass go in sections, and the top shelf of the bottom section, if you see what I mean, the shelf stands proud by about 4mm of the side of the carcass. So the next section of carcass sits slightly below the shelves.
Okay.
And you've got dominoes at either side to help locate it. So you don't get that awkward line where you get a carcass just joining a shelf. It's sort of hidden by the side of the shelf. That's the theory anyway. That should work out quite well.
Right. Nifty. It's always these more complicated, interesting jobs that would make really interesting videos, but you can't fill them.
It would, because there's so much to think about. Just working out the guy wants 40mm face frame all around, and obviously I can only approximately see how far out of true the walls and the chimney breast are, so you've got to sort of try and balance that. But just to get the maximum width of shelf in to get a 40mm face frame at the front of the carcass takes a bit of fiddling, a bit of jiggling around. Interesting job. If I had more time on it, it'd be great. But unfortunately, time is pressing, and I need to crack on with it. And
it's one of those things as well, where if you were going to bother to video it and really do it justice, you'd need lighting rigs and all sorts.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever been in a property where the lighting's been good enough to film.
No, this is one of the biggest headaches, and people's often ask, we'd love to see some more installs. Well, first of all, there are privacy issues. Some people just don't want you filming in their house, which is totally fine. And it just takes too long to do something decent. I did a couple of quick sort of, end of the job kind of on my phone, panning up and down the installs that I've done recently. And they look horrible because it's 7 o'clock at night, there's a bare bulb or whatever in the room, or just those nasty little spotlight downlights. The lighting's horrible. The colours are all over the place because you've still got some outside light coming in. It never looks good, and it's not really what you want to present as the finished job on video.
Yeah, it doesn't show off your hard work to a proper extent, does it? It's I always find it's a bit depressing when you take those final photos, unless you get like a really nice brightly lit room with sunlight, and you can get some quite nifty photos with a DSLR and a long exposure or something like that.
That's right.
But getting good photos in a dark room, and especially video, it just looks terrible. Honestly, if anyone's ever wondering why we don't put more content out there of the bigger, more complicated jobs in customer properties, that is one of the main reasons.
We did get a question actually from, and I can't find it for the life of me just now, but thank you very much for the question. When am I going to do a series about photographing your work, your installs? And it's something I've considered actually to do, because not everybody is a photography fan. Not everybody is interested in photography, but getting decent quality pictures of your work is really important, because that's all we have. We'd love to give somebody a list of names and addresses of people whose houses we've worked in, and they can pop around and have a look, but that ain't going to happen anytime ever. So getting decent pictures of stuff you've installed is key, really. So that we can promote ourselves and show that we can show people the kind of work that we've done. So it's something that's cropped up with a couple of the guys that I know on Twitter, and I may do it as all these things. When you start thinking about it, it becomes a much bigger project than you know. How far into this do you go? Do you start having to talk about lenses and exposures and all that sort of stuff? Yeah.
It would be an interesting one, though. I'd follow that. I'd quite enjoy that. As a keen amateur photographer, I would definitely enjoy that. I think any tips and things, especially photographing white objects and making them look good, is so hard.
Yeah. It's a classic conundrum, getting white stuff to look white, and yet still keep some detail in it.
Yeah,
and especially now when clever phones in our clever cameras in our phones can do so much, and yet you can't beat a manual white balance and proper exposure.
Yeah,
to get what you want, and lighting. Sometimes you need to light stuff. Tricky.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll add it to my list of my long list of videos that I need to do in the new year.
There's a project for 2019 for you.
Yeah. So that was me. How have you been?
I've been. Everything's just been smaller run up to Christmas jobs. Nice. Because I've passed that point where it's too close for getting any of the bigger jobs in.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I've had a lot of customers, like regular customers, just wanting little bits and pieces done, which I don't mind doing around this time of year, just to help them get the houses sorted out and whatnot, and little shelving jobs. And I had a job last week where literally I just had to rearrange 2 rooms for a client and move the furniture around, but it involved having to flat pack furniture, basically take it all to bits, move it into another room, put it all back together, in the hope that it can be put back together and all the joints don't just disintegrate. And getting all that done. And just little jobs like that the customer just doesn't want to do themselves, and they wouldn't know how to do themselves. They wouldn't know how to build it in the first place, never mind take it to bits and put it back together without any instructions.
Yeah, sure.
So there's stuff like that. I've got a bunch of another bunch of little jobs next week. And then I'll be finishing off.
Nice.
So I've got a lot of design jobs and quote jobs to get done, ready for next year, just to kind of get everything lined up for January, February time and ready to go.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of SketchUp things that I need to get done and dusted and out. Yeah. So that'll take a day or so of work on SketchUp. A huge amount of stuff I've been doing on my website, on the GosforthHandyman.com website, that it's turned into a bit of it's taken over my life more than YouTube, I think. But
you started blogging and stuff on that, didn't you?
Well, kind of, loosely speaking. The last time I think I blogged on it was about 6 months ago, because I started blogging and then I just haven't had time to do any more blogging on it. But I finally got a shop up and running on it.
Oh, well done.
For selling
your tape measures and stuff.
Tape measures and merch and stuff. But that took about 2 weeks of solid work to get that properly up and running and working.
I'll bet.
And then, you know what it is? Everything went fine with getting the shop set up. I've never had website problems in the years and years that I've had websites. And then the second I pressed go and made the shop go live, the website got bloody hacked.
No way.
Just a random bit of text appeared on one page of the website, and generally that means there's been some sort of SQL injection attack or something like that, where stuff's getting injected directly into the database through some sort of rogue code somewhere, like a malware thing or something like that. But I just couldn't think of any way that could possibly happen. I've got really strong passwords everywhere, and it's never. I got rid of it and did like a full security lockdown on everything. But I've got firewalls and anti-malware stuff on the site, so it shouldn't. I just couldn't think of how this happened. And as I say, I got rid of it, and it was only a couple of lines, but it was a couple of lines of text that I didn't write. Just, imagine that on the homepage of your website. It's like, oh, something's appeared.
Yeah.
I didn't put that there.
Somebody else is controlling this. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So suddenly it's like, oh, brilliant. So I had to take everything offline, go all hands on deck to get everything really locked down, do full scans of everything. Yeah. And I'm wondering if and maybe someone more technical than me, I've got a caching plugin on the site, which is a new thing. Which is, I'll not go into the technical details of what a caching plugin does.
No, please don't.
But I'm wondering if it's possible that maybe my site wasn't hacked and it was something to do with the way it's been cached somehow, and it's come back from the caching where where stuff's well, no, even that would have to. The cache is held on my local service. So
can you say who the shop is with?
It's just WooCommerce that I run. It's pretty much the bog standard WordPress based shop. There's basically that or Shopify, but Shopify is like a third party hosted shop and costs a bit more money to run. And you have a little bit less control over what you can do because it's kind of like, it's almost like an Etsy.
Right.
But more controllable. Yeah. It's a proper web shop that links up to your site and all that sort of thing. But you're very much in the hands of Shopify and what they allow you to do. Whereas, because I'm a complete control freak.
No way.
I had to go down the WooCommerce route of me having complete control over it, which then results in complete nightmares like this.
You have nobody else to blame, yeah.
No, not really. No. It seems to be all sorted, but it was just sod's law that after all that time of getting everything up and running, and then you press go, and then it's like, oh, for goodness sake. And then you're back to the drawing board, fix all those problems, and then, and then go for a relaunch again. But I'm kind of glad that I just did a soft launch. I didn't make anything too public. I briefly mentioned it on... What did I do? I think I only mentioned it on Patreon up until that point, and then I've had the odd little post on Instagram about it.
Yeah, I saw those.
And then other stuff is same as yourself, admin and tax season and all of that. We're running up to tax return time, so I need to get all that done for various bits and pieces, and then I've got limited company tax due as well, which I need to sort out. That's due a bit later on in the year, but I need to get on. I might as well get on top of it now over the Christmas at the same time.
Yeah.
Get all the admin done, and then we'll have Christmas at some point.
At some point, Christmas will happen. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Are you ready in any which way, shape, or form?
No, not at all. I think I've bought a couple of presents, courtesy of. My wife just sent me some links. Oh, jump on those quickly. Yeah, great. Buy that. But no, other than that, I'm completely ill prepared for Christmas, for the festive fortnight, as always. I am horribly, just horribly disorganised on it. I'm afraid I'm just sort of super focused on the work and getting that out of the way. Normally, I try and finish whenever the week before Christmas is. I try and take that week off just to kind of clear the decks a little bit, clear the workshop, tidy everything up, calm down a little bit, do a Christmas video, end of year roundup sort of thing. And this year, in theory, I should have been finishing today, but in practice, I'm probably not going to finish until next Thursday now. So,
yeah, I'm going to be running right up to the Friday, like I think. And the thing is as well, I think with the way Christmas has landed this year, with
on the Monday.
Christmas Eve being today.
Yeah, today as
on the Monday, and then tomorrow being Christmas Day.
Woohoo!
With the way things are landed, the schools, well, up here anyway, the schools don't break up until the Friday, or didn't break up until the Friday. Very confusing. Yeah, so the schools have no time off before Christmas Eve, which is just bizarre. And like, I had all these plans to go Christmas shopping with my daughter, and it's like have a bit of like time out, just me and her doing a bit of shopping for mum and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's no way that we can do it. There's no, other than doing it on a weekend, which a weekend at the Metro Centre, you just don't do that. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Metro Centre at all?
I'm not, but I can imagine it is just like we've got Westfield just down the road from us here in West London, and I'm sure it's very much a similar kind of shopping centre mall thing that is torture at weekends and school holidays, basically.
Yeah, it's literally hell on earth, and it's the Metro Centre. It's Europe's, or one of Europe's biggest shopping centres, and it's giant, and it's always kind of vying for that top position of who's currently got the biggest shopping mall. Well, like that's any kind of accolade.
Yeah, I'd keep that to yourself.
Yeah, who's got the best bowels of hell in their city. And and on a weekend, especially a weekend before Christmas, I mean, I've had it where I've queued for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours I've queued just to get in. I haven't been able to get parked anywhere because it's got free parking everywhere and all that sort of thing. And I've just had to turn around and come back home, and then you're in an equally massive queue just trying to get back out the place. Once you're in, it's not too bad, but the traffic and everything around it is just hell on earth. So there's no way I'm doing that on the Saturday or Sunday before Christmas. So I'm just going to have to go Christmas shopping on my Todd at some point. I could go in an evening maybe and do that. Every year I say the same thing, that next year I'm going to be more organised, and I'm going to have like some time before Christmas to get everything sorted. And then suddenly Christmas is here, and
the trouble is buying stuff for especially for your missus when you've been together for so long, and you both earn your own money and all that sort of stuff. The vast majority of things that she wants, she's already bought.
Yes,
throughout the year. What do you get for somebody? Vouchers? I don't know. Yeah, it's
and then we get back to the hoarding conversation, and this is how it happens, because you have like years and years of rubbish being bought that like nobody wants, and anyway. But happy Christmas, everyone.
Yes, happy. Have a lovely time. So the festive fortnight is upon us. What are you doing? Is it family time?
It is family time. We'll be hosting a big Christmas dinner and having family over and all that sort of thing. Need to kind of tie it in with a visit over to the care home to see my mum, and
of course,
kind of fit that in. And then, we'll be having full family dinner at ours. So it'll be a busy day. I think probably 12 or so of us, maybe 12 or 13 of us, I think, over for Christmas dinner. So it should be quite a
rowdy get together.
Yes, I think so. It'll be pretty full on, I think.
Good.
And what about you?
Family time. We've got both my kids home unusually for Christmas Day this year, which is really nice. So just us, and then we've got my wife's family coming the day after Boxing Day. So
oh, fantastic!
A good clan gathering.
That'd be nice.
And then I'm going to go up and see my dad in January.
Yeah, nice. So when do you go back to work then? Have you decided?
I don't know. I haven't even looked at a diary. When's the first week of January back? I mean, probably the second week of January.
The schools don't go back until quite late. So on the plus side of them breaking up late, they don't go back till quite late. Whether or not that's a positive or a negative.
Yeah, quite. Probably back and working sometime the week of the 7th.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of jobs to do in January that are sort of hung on from before Christmas, which will need doing. But I'm thinking about taking and this is just, talking out loud here, thinking about taking a month off from work, thinking about taking a month off from paying work.
YouTube and everything.
To try and get the YouTube, because there's just so much to do on YouTube. There are so many videos that I've talked about and not done, and we're at the stage where I almost need to take a few weeks off just to get on with them, and have a serious think about where things are going, because we're reaching the point, and I don't know if you've felt this as well, but I'm reaching the point where it's now more than a full-time job's worth of work to run the YouTube side of things.
I'm definitely spending more time doing YouTube than I'm doing the day job.
Paying work, yeah.
Definitely. It doesn't work out like that money-wise, unfortunately.
No, that's the trouble.
But time-wise, definitely, YouTube's way taken over. Once you include everything else behind the scenes, then, yeah, big style.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about going full-time is too rash of a decision with things how they are at the minute, but maybe cutting back and just doing... It's all tied in to do with doing the installs as well. Doing the installs is I'm finding it really hard. Do you have help? Do you have anybody to help you on the?
No, it's always just
now
me.
I work on my own as well, but I'm getting on for whatever it is, 15, 20 years older than you.
Yeah,
and I'm feeling it. I really am. By the time we get to Maker Central next year, I'll be almost 59, and it's hard. I can't do the long days and the oiking the stuff around like I used to be able to.
Yeah,
and part of me just doesn't want to do it anymore either. So I've got to have a think about what else to do, and partly that might be doing smaller one-off pieces, the kind of thing that I've been doing for the interior designer, although they come up with some fairly hefty pieces. And the other option is, of course, to try and wind YouTube up so that it's generating a bit more income, so that we can justify taking a bit more time over that.
And certainly, everything's going in the right direction. And the one thing I always say to people on a business standpoint is that you've got to know your numbers and, make a graph of what's happening and make your decisions based on that. And if something is really taking off and looking that like it's got legs, then maybe that is the thing that's worth putting more time into. And certainly I think with both of what we're doing, and there's not many UK YouTubers doing what we're doing.
There don't seem to be.
At the end of the day, it's a handful. I mean, I can probably count on one hand people who do the sort of stuff that we do in the UK, doing YouTube in any kind of serious way. I'm sure there's smaller channels out there who are maybe starting to do that sort of thing, but it's a handful of people doing that, and it's the same across the board. It's in the same way that you can name your electricians and your plumbers and all that sort of thing on YouTube, but you know who they are, because there's so few people doing it in any kind of serious way. But it is an enormous amount of work, and I think that's what there's a lot of people who start the YouTube thing and think that maybe they can just get away with putting 5 or 10 videos together, and suddenly they realise that they're only getting
a handful of views,
maybe under 10 views per video, and it is come back and complain when you've made 200 videos.
Yeah, quite.
And then see how you feel about that as a project. And I'm not saying don't do it, but you have to be committed to the long game. You've
got to commit to it. That's what we did, and certainly that's what I did. Just over 2 years ago, committed to doing a video a week, and that turned into 2, and da-di-da, So it goes and so it grows.
I'm similar myself, and I've had a couple of ideas for some things that I would like to make that I could probably sell through my website now that I've got the shop up and running. And that's another reason for getting the shop up and running, because there's a few things that I've made kind of little prototypes of, or I've been asked to make for customers. And it's like, this is potentially a thing that I could not necessarily knock out in batch. It would still be a kind of, not a bespoke thing, but quite a unique thing that is flat packable, and I could potentially send it off anywhere in the world.
Okay.
And that might be another avenue as well. But again, it's just getting the time. I haven't even got time to sort out the basics, like putting a couple of tape measures on there. It's taken 6 months of planning to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've not got involved in any merch at all, and it's something I need to look at as ever. Lack of time. So you need to, like I say, I think I've taken a few weeks off, a month off from paid work, just to concentrate on the YouTube business, because it is generating, not a lot of money, but it's generating enough, as we've said before, that you've got to account for what income it generates with regard to tax. So it's serious enough that it requires attention. So yeah,
it's a business. Yeah. It is a business, and there's a whole load of avenues that open up when you go down that route. And as I say, merch, web shop,
yes,
Patreon, online courses that you could do. I think someone mentioned that in one of the comments. And there's so many things that suddenly doors open. You could just do a channel of reviewing tools. I mean, I'd love to do more tool reviews, but I just haven't got time. Like, I've had stuff sent to me. I've had a lovely, what's it? Hold on, I can't even say it. The GRS 16 track square. Who's it made by? Hold on, give us 2 seconds. Whoops. Can you see that?
Oh, that thing. Yeah.
I've had one of these sent to us to have a look at.
Yeah.
I think Axminster get credit for that, so thank you, Axminster.
Okay.
So it's a GRS 16 guide rail square.
Yeah, it's a square that attaches to the rail and lets you make, in theory, square cuts.
Yes,
without having to measure or.
I've had that sitting around now for nearly 2 weeks, and I haven't even had a chance to take it out the box. Never mind do a video about it, and I was trying to explain to the people who sent us it. I'll get a video out as quick as I can, but, it'll be the new year.
It's interesting, isn't it? The people in the business seem to expect instant responses.
Yes.
And I've had some workwear sent to me, and, apart from sending me the wrong flipping sizes, you give these people your sizes and they send you stuff that's like... the legs like 4 inches too long in the trousers or whatever. We're really keen to get the ball rolling as soon as possible. You've got to be kidding, I'm doing 12-hour days between now and Christmas just to try and get this through, get all the work through. The last thing you want is a pair of trousers where the pockets are in different places. That's one of the things that drives me nuts about workwear, is that even from the same manufacturers, a different range will have the pockets on the other side or something, so that you keep your pencils and your pens and your whatever in one side, so you always know you're there and you always reach for them. And then you change trousers and they're on the other side, and you think, has nobody actually worn these? Has nobody spoken to somebody who wears these and does actual work? Anyway, workwear. Yeah, so yes, we can't turn these things around instantly, unfortunately, and the videos take time to make. You can do a quick talking type video to your phone easily enough, and I've got a couple of those coming up because they were easy to do, but it's not what you want as a product type review or a product opinion. Yeah,
exactly. And doing good product reviews it's quite hard, because you've got to properly research it. And I don't generally like to review something that I've not used very much, because it's not until you've used it for a couple of months, really, that you learn all the nuances and the ins and
absolutely.
outs of like, oh, actually that bit there is really annoying. You know, it's like little daft little things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely.
Daft little things like my biscuit jointer. It's awesome, but it blows the fan like air that blows out. It blows directly into your eyeballs. I mean,
yeah, you've mentioned this before, and when you did a thing about it. Yeah, it's what a crazy piece of design that is.
Who designs something that just deliberately blows all the dust? I mean, to be fair, the dust extraction's pretty good on it, but it just blows wind straight into your eyeballs, and the only thing you can do, I put a piece of tape over the vent hole. Yeah. But it's little things like that maybe on your first couple, if you just took it out the box and had a look and had a little quick play, you wouldn't necessarily notice.
You think it was fantastic? Yeah, I'm the same with. I've got to do a review of the Domino connector joins system because I've used them more. And when you use them, I've discovered a few other things about it which are really actually quite clever, which you might not have realised when you first get it. But it's a few months old now, the whole connector system. I used it for the first time on the big job earlier in the year, and when it first came out, people were doing sort of unboxing reviews and that sort of thing. And you think, well, that's nice. You get to see what's in the box, but unless you're actually going to use it in anger on a few different jobs, so you use the different types, you're not really going to get a full feel for how it acts in the real world, are you? And
then by the time you've used it that much, it looks like a second-hand piece of junk, and it's not something that you really want on a review. It's almost like you need 2 copies of every tool, one that you're going to use for 3 months to get your head around it, and then a brand new one that you can show on the review, so that it doesn't look like some second-hand tool that you're doing a review of, and then it's like, but yeah, it's funny. Anyway, a bit inside baseball there, but
yeah, all kinds of potential going on into next year. Interesting times, but yes, I think I've got to take a few weeks to actually concentrate on doing some YouTube stuff because the work stuff is distracting.
It is, yeah, it is.
it's a valuable distraction, but I've got to have a think about doing less of the big physical stuff, and I think trying to ramp up the YouTube earnings is potentially a way forwards. So we'll see.
I keep on looking at other channels where they've just gone full time, and I think it was Evan and Caitlin, a big shout out to Evan and Caitlin. Briefly met them at Maker Central last year, but we were all very, very busy. They've got a great YouTube channel, and they've just gone full time, I think. But they had like 300,000 subscribers or something at the point that they went full time. But there is 2 of them, I suppose, so they do have to kind of sustain 2 incomes. But yes. I mean, on my side, my wife's getting more and more involved as well. She's helping out behind the scenes on more and more stuff because I physically haven't got the time to do stuff. So she's helping with, deliveries and fulfillment and ordering and keeping me in check to say, like, you need to, like, promote this more because we've got loads of people asking about it. And so, yeah, it is gradually turning into a full-time thing, I think. But we'll see when that actually happens. I think it's an evolutionary thing, isn't it? Rather than
I think so, very much so. Yeah, and the other thing, of course, is if we go full time on YouTube, what do you do videos about? If part of our channels is closely linked to making stuff that we put into people's homes, then suddenly we end up being got a great idea for you, Andy. Just come closer. Nobody's listening, right?
Go on. Yeah.
Plywood shop cabinets. Yeah.
Plywood shop cabinets.
Yeah. Nobody's doing videos about those.
No one's done them.
Sharpening. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. They'll be big winners, big hits, I'm sure.
So we could just do weekly videos just about that.
Just doing plywood shop cabinets. In fact, I think 5-minute workshop. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Short, snappy 5-minute videos. You could do one using your Festool track saw, and you get 1 cut a week with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
4.5 minutes to do 1 cut. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be perfect. So I'll just do every week a slightly different cut.
Yeah, and you could take your time over.
That had crossed my mind as well. Of what would I show if I was full time?
Yeah.
And then it suddenly dawned on us, hold on, I could make all the things that I've been wanting to make for my own bloomin' house that I've never had a chance to make.
All the tour reviews that you've got. I've got a head full of video ideas, bursting full of them, and none of them are work-related.
I don't have a single built-in unit in our house. It's crazy.
Me neither.
In my wife's kind of... it's not a dressing room, but it's like, anyway, it's a storage room that's got a wardrobe in, and her dressing table happens to be in there.
Yeah, call it a dressing room. Fancy it up, why don't you? Yeah.
It's where the rest of our bedroom should really be, and she's got a wardrobe in there, and next to the wardrobe we've got a temporary IKEA canvas wardrobe. I don't know if you've seen these. Like,
yeah, they're great. Yeah,
they're literally made of canvas.
How long has that been temporary?
Well, 5 years that's been in there now. And all I need to do is build a little slender, what about 300mm wide wardrobe. But if I did that, we'd have so much more space, because these little canvas things don't really store very much, because they kind of bow in at the back. No. They're like rounded at the back edge.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We've had a few of those.
And we've been living with one of those in that room for the last 5 years. Literally, it's like having your clothes in a tent.
Yes, exactly. And you could do the install easily, because it's in your own home.
I could properly light it and all sorts.
Yeah.
The stuff I've been wanting to do for the living room, like I'd love to make some really nice MDF, but with oak framed shelving and stuff, really nice things. There's a lot. I don't know if you've seen on Twitter and Instagram, but there's an awful lot of very nice oak and white painted with oak framed and whatnot stuff going on. It's very, very current, very now. It looks fantastic. I'd love to do some stuff like that. And as you say, if it's in your own house, you can properly light it. You can take your time over it. You can make really nice videos. So I don't think there'd be any fear that would run out of things to film.
I want to strip my workshop benches out and start again with them, and that'd be a series, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, there's a thing. I mean, I've been talking a long time about wanting to get an MFT in mine.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other. Well, what I'd quite like to do is turn my big assembly table in the middle of the workshop into an MFT.
That'd be cool.
But that's got my router table in.
Yeah, that's right. You can have it so that it pops up?
Yeah, but at the moment I've got a flip top.
Oh, okay.
So the top of my workbench flips up, and then I've got the router box and everything, and I'll lift my router table in, because underneath I haven't got very much space, because I've got all my wood storage underneath. Okay. So I've only got 4 inch or so of depth, so I can't get a full router underneath the table as a permanent thing.
Gotcha.
Either way, to turn that, and then my next problem with that bench is that the middle of it is sagging, just because it's so heavy, because it's ended up over the years storing such a ridiculous amount of wood in it.
Yeah, middle of my MFT is sagging as well.
Yeah,
actually.
So I need to work out some sort of way to either fix that or just make a whole brand new bench and just ditch that one. And then it's like, well, if you're doing all that, do I just rearrange everything? And as you say, that on its own, there's a year's project. Of filming.
Yeah, you could really. I mean, we've had it on the topic list for a while, and I can't remember whether we talked about it or not. But benches that look like works of art or dining tables. I mean, you could do a real number on it. It's all beautiful and dovetail pop-up bench stops and all that sort of stuff. I'd be scared. I'd give it a week with me, and it'd be covered in spray paint and glue.
Yeah.
I can't. It's the ultimate. Can I say the word wank, isn't it? It really is. I mean, who wants a bench like that? Carpenters for other carpenters. It's not a practical thing at all, is it? It's just a...
I'm not precious about my benches at all. I'll drill into them. It's like, unless I'm doing like millions and millions of holes, and then I might put a sacrificial bit of wood underneath. But if I'm drilling the odd hole, I don't care if the drill bit goes into my bench. It's like, that's what it's there for. It's a workbench.
Exactly. That's why I have the benches that I have. It's a reasonably solid subframe, but with a sheet of MDF on the top, and so that I can whack a 20mm hole through it so I can clamp something.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's what I want. Anyway, I know I have to change the bench tops fairly soon, so I might do the bases as well. But my nephew, who goaded me into starting YouTube regularly, is actually going to take the bench tops. He's going to have them on his wall as art.
Oh, wow. I think it's nice to keep certain little things like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a very little thing.
No, they're quite substantial.
It's got a story, you know, every mark, every drop of paint, everything. You could probably look at that and say, that's from that job, that's from that job.
Yeah.
You probably know.
It's history, yeah.
I've got stuff on my benches where I can track it back to individual videos that I've filmed where, you know, even spills and things that it's like, oh, I remember when I spilled that, you know. It's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're 50 minutes in. Should we do some follow-up?
Yeah, better head.
We had some great follow-up, but we probably can't go into it in a huge amount of detail. Should we do a couple of quick ones first? I added them right at the bottom of the list if you've seen them. Wayne asked how much we pay for MDF.
Ooh, that's right. The short, terrible truth is I don't really know.
Yeah, I had to do a bit of checking to find out.
I would genuinely have to look it up. I think it's 18mm MR is about 25 quid a sheet, maybe 20.
What, for Medite MR? In central London, you're paying less than me.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Quite right too. No, they are very good. They are very cheap. They're very good.
So I'm paying 33.65 for Medite MR, including VAT.
Right.
And for standard is 21.75. So there you go. Wayne had said that he's been quoted anything from £28.50 to £40.21. 40 sounds very expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should be around the £30, including VAT.
Around the 30. I would. Yeah. Ballpark of 30 quid a sheet.
I always have it in the back of my mind. You know, if I'm calculating stuff up, 30 quid for MR, 20 quid for non-MR is the figures that kind of instantly spring to mind for 18mm sheets. So there you go.
What about birch ply? What do you pay for that?
Off the top of my head, 40, 50, but it's not something that I do very often. Okay. So what about you?
About the same, about 50 quid for a sheet of 18mm birch.
Yeah.
But oddly, a sheet of 12mm isn't 2/3 of the price. And a sheet of 6mm isn't 1/3 of the price, yeah. It doesn't work like that for some reason.
It's the 18's just the most popular by a country mile, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
And
so they stock lots of it, so yeah.
We had someone asking, or mentioned, Mike mentioned about prepping MDF edge grain and mentioned edge banding. Do you edge band ever?
Very rarely. Only normally if it's a veneer. So I put a veneer edge banding on it. Not for MDF that's going to be painted. Yeah.
Same here. I hate edge banding. Edge banding comes narrowly above sanding for me. I can't stand using the stuff, and I'll use it on melamine if I'm putting any melamine shelves in.
Yes,
where you have to really do an edge on chipboard, and I'll use it for veneered, but I wouldn't use it for MDF personally, because if you use either of our methods for end grain preparation, you'll not need to. You'll not be able to tell any difference.
You'll not need to, yeah.
I promise you that, because I'm looking at it, as I've said before, and I can't see any difference between the end and the face.
A different kettle of fish, of course, if you've got a yard or a wherever you buy your timber from, who will edge band or paper tape the edges for you. That's something else. I mean, my timber yard has a big honking great edge banding machine. Yeah, and they'll put tape or PVC edging on.
And you can get very nifty workshop solutions for edge banding as well. I mean, they cost a lot for good ways of doing it, good, practical, quick ways of doing it. Yeah. I think doing it at any kind of scale with an iron and a Stanley knife is just not practical.
Madness.
Even using trim routers and things for trimming it. And I know you can get special devices for trimming the edges off edge banding, but for me it's just too much extra time for not enough benefit.
Yes, for MDF that's going to be painted, absolutely not. It's not something I've gotten involved with. We had a question, and this is going to be, I don't know if you want to do this, though, one from Tom was asking about the how we go about you didn't want to talk about the money side of things, but the length of time taken for how you go about figuring out how long something is going to take to make. And I put this up in an email. You've got the drawing. Well done. I haven't got the drawing.
Printed it out because I did see his email when it came in. It came in a little while ago, that one. And
it was a little while back, and apologies to Tom for taking our time to get to you. Always great to hear from everybody, of course. If you go to measuringuppodcast.com and hit the contact button there, you'll be taken to a form where you can email us directly through the website. And we always love to hear from you. Tom had said he's got a bookcase to quote for, and he's attached a simple drawing of it. Basic our kind of bread and butter work. So he's interested in how long we'd estimate that such a job would take a time, rather than talking about day rates. And he's talking about making it from birch ply. It's a floor to ceiling bookcase that needs to fit around boxed in pipework. So a little bit of a fiddle to get it to fit. And he's allowed 4 days to construct, finish, and install. He says the finishing would be much like we've demonstrated, either painted, stained, or varnished. Painted, stained, or varnished are vastly different in terms of time, I would say. But and I don't think he says which it will be, does he?
No, he mentioned Osmo, which Osmo's pretty quick to put on, but then it depends how you're putting it on, I suppose. And are you going to be doing it before building it, or I'm not sure how glue takes to Osmo, so I'm not sure what's going to happen to glue joints if you decide to Osmo them beforehand.
Osmo them, you've got to keep the glue off the keep the glue off the birch ply, basically, because the Osmo won't like it. And it was Tom who said, wondered if I would consider doing a video on taking pictures of the finished work. Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Tricky one really, because something of that size, it wasn't particularly wide, but it was reasonably tall. I can't remember, quite a few shelves in it in total.
4 fixed shelves.
4 fixed shelves.
Plus obviously the top and bottom. And then 5 adjustable shelves by the looks of it. It says dividing shelves, but I'm assuming they're adjustable. They're in dotted lines. Yeah, tricky one. I think 4 days is fair enough. I'd probably allow a full week to be on the safe side.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say a week's work. I'd say, a comfortable week to build it and install it, not necessarily in 5 continuous days. You might need a little bit longer. The painting will take a little bit longer if you're going to paint it. But then you've got to allow overnight drying times for Osmo as well. So
Osmo can take a long time to dry. I've seen it where it's still been tacky after 2 days. So you definitely have to cater for that, unless you're going to just be doing it on site. But then what are you going to second coat it? And tricky.
But you have a Siberian workshop, Andy.
It's a comfort.
A positively balmy.
10 degrees is a perfectly comfortable working temperature.
Of course it is.
You and your 25-degree workshop
so
constantly.
Hot. It is so hot. You come out of the workshop it's temperature's 2 degrees out just now, and I cross the street in a t-shirt because I'm just too hot. I'm in a t-shirt in the workshop because it's just too hot. It's 22 degrees in there.
Mine will be absolute, because I wasn't in the workshop yesterday or today, so it'll be Baltic in there at the minute. It'll be basically whatever temperature it is outside will be the same temperature as it is in the workshop. But it warms up pretty quick once I get the heaters on. But it's just since I wasn't in it yesterday, absorbed in websites. But, and it's a project, the shelving thing. Is it something that he would do? Would he do all the assembly and then ship it as a complete unit?
You build it in pieces like I'm doing mine?
Or do you build it on site? I mean, obviously, if you can do it as a complete unit and literally more or less just drop it off and attach it to the wall or whatever, then it's going to make the install a lot quicker. But you're going to have to think about, have you got a big enough vehicle that you can get that there? Are you going to need someone to help you lift it into place, because that's a big heavy unit. So he might have said that in the email, whether or not it has to be flat packed, I'm not sure. But anyway, I think a very reasonably 5 days, full week's
work. Week's work, I would say.
I'm glancing at that and thinking there's a 1,500 quid job.
Yeah.
for a set of shelves.
Yep, absolutely.
But it depends where you are and whatnot as well. And, if it birch ply, it's going to look stunning. So again, we're getting on to, I think someone mentioned in a separate email about when you build certain things, they have a value outside just the assembly time because it's such a nice thing that's been built.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, that can carry through into what you finally quote the customer. If you're making a beautiful thing for someone, you could easily justify $2,500 for something like that. And
that's right.
Plenty places. If you go to, someone had mentioned on my comments about going out and charging it $240 a day or something like that, and therefore wardrobes were going to work out at like £1,200 or something. And I just said, get in touch with Sharps,
get a quote from them,
get them to come and quote, and you see what they're going to charge, because I can guarantee it'll be probably double what you're charging at the minute.
Yep.
So yeah, just have a look around. Visit. Is Barker and Stonehouse a London thing, or is that just up here? So one of our posh furniture shops up here,
right?
And go and see what they're charging for a table. You'll spend $2-3 grand on a table. So. And the rest. Absolutely.
Have a look at the David Linley website, Mr. Marketry, Viscount Linley or whatever he's called. Does some very nice work, but comes in at a very nice price too. So,
and unfortunately, that's not our bread and butter work at the moment.
No. But again, take a nice birch ply bookcase, apply a very thin, simple sapele edge to it, and suddenly you've got something that looks a lot more expensive.
Yeah, and it's a thing that will last forever, and that's one of these nice things. It'll get handed down through generations. It could sit in anyone's corner of a room. It doesn't have to just be used for boxing and pipe work.
Heirloom quality.
Exactly. Rather than the acres of chipboard junk that I'm currently clearing out my mother's house that's just going to go in the bin. Awful flat pack stuff.
Yeah. Pre-IKEA?
Pre-IKEA, yeah, probably MFI.
So it'll be MFI, and
it just goes in the bin. There's no, you don't hand that sort of stuff down to people. So it just goes in the bin, that sort of stuff. But this sort of thing, it has intrinsic value.
That's the word.
So don't underquote.
No, indeed. No, absolutely not. It's terrible, isn't it? When you're chasing work, you want to give somebody the best price you can, but at the same time, you've got to make a living.
Exactly.
You've got to earn a decent amount, and given the amount of time you spend doing this stuff, the rates have got to reflect that, as well as then getting into the niceties like the quality of the finished product being something significantly better than you can get from IKEA or indeed from MFI back in the day. That's why comments like, "Oh, but it's only MDF," really wind me up, because the value of what you're creating has nothing to do with the materials that you use.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think, what I've always said to people is, you need to run your business for a couple of years and see, charge a reasonable rate and see what your actual take-home wage is. And it won't be anywhere near as high as you think it's going to be.
Regardless of what your day rate is, it'll be nowhere near.
Nowhere near. If you're knocking out wardrobes at, say, £1,000 a week, and you're theoretically bringing in $4,000 a month, there's no way on earth that's what your take-home wage is going to be. It'll be a fraction of that. And you won't be doing that. You won't be running jobs back to back like that, because you've got to have time to kind of sort quotes and sort your workshop out and all the
back end stuff. Yeah, I've got a because I'm really busy, and because there's just not much time to do much video. I've actually done. It didn't start out this way, but it's turning into this a little sort of mini series on the process of installs, but behind the scenes, because I'm not showing installs proper at the minute because it just takes too long. But all the other stuff, I know we talked about, wrapping the painted pieces up for delivery for installation. Well, I just stuck a hammer in the corner kind of thing while I was wrapping the study up. And it was amazing how long that took, and all that sort of stuff has to be allowed for. You've got to allow for all that time when you quote for the job. So there's that. There's how to sort out your gear before you go out on an install. Make a list, check it twice. Well, yeah, but you've got to try and figure out all the bits and pieces that you need, because every install is different. Mm-hmm. They're all the same, but they're all different in some ways. So how do you make sure that you don't have something missing? Either you have a totally separate install kit in addition to your workshop kit, or you've got to be organised about it. And the other thing is when you come back after the install, your gear is going to be all over the place because you're working in a crazy small space. You've got to go through all that again and put all that away back in the places where it'll be ready for the next one. So yeah, I don't know how interesting it's going to be generally, but I thought it was worth documenting just to show how long this stuff takes.
I think the more that can be done to instill in people, not just in tradespeople, but in the customer's mind.
Potential customers as well.
And then they can kind of, when people are going out to jobs and they're getting shot back and said, oh no, that's too expensive, go and watch this video and see what else is involved. It's not just a question of going out there, doing the work, getting the money and on to the next one. It just doesn't work like that in the real world in any way, which shape or form. And we've chatted before, I think, about, tradespeople will happily go out there, boiler fitters, going out and installing a boiler, and it might take a day, and they're charging £1,000 for the install.
Yep.
We're not that expensive in the scheme of things, In
the scheme of things, no. No, indeed.
So, you've just got to be realistic, but run it, don't judge it based on one or two jobs that you've done. You've got to run it for a couple of years before you know what all of your outgoings are and what sort of extra expenses you're going to run into that you'd never even thought of, and then work at what is that profit figure coming out at the end of the year. And it'll be, you'll know by what your tax bill is at the end of the day, because that is what your take home wages is your gross profit, and then taking off your tax to get to your net profit. And that is it. You'll be shocked at how little it is compared to what you've been charging.
Yeah.
We had another one about, Jim mentioned about the apprenticeships thing.
Yes, Jim had followed up.
I know we said we'd not knock this one on the head, but
but it was generous of Jim to follow up on this, because Jim's the older, mature student, let's say, who's taken voluntary redundancy and is doing sitting guilds. Sitting guilds course Jim's doing as a confidence building and gap filling, knowledge gap filling rather than CV building, he says. And he's taken the time to ask 3 different lecturers on his course, and he got three completely different answers about the differences between NVQ, sitting guilds and apprenticeships.
Well, that's good in a way, because that matches up with what we're seeing.
What we're finding, that's true. He spoke to the apprenticeship admin, and they said that no way would it suit a mature student, as it only pays £3.60 an hour and lasts 12 to 24 months. So, yes, he says he's still very unclear on all. He's the one who's studying. So, yeah,
he's at the coalface, and he can't get the answers. So there you go.
But thanks to Jim for following up for us, and we really appreciate that. That's some excellent non-information there,
but very useful.
Confirming exactly what we know.
It's confirmed confirmed what we thought, and very interesting. Thanks to everyone who's got back to us on the apprenticeship topic. Every single response that has been sent in has been invaluable.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah, great.
And very interesting. And at some point, I haven't mentioned this, but we're going to put, and it might be live by the time this episode goes out, but we're going to put a new little resources section on the Measuring Up podcast website with just a link off to a few of the things that we talk about, so that everything's in one place. So we'll include links to like all the books that we talk about and a few of the products that we talk about and things like that. And
yeah, great.
So look out for that on measuringuppodcast.com, and look out for that resources section if you're ever looking for a bit more information, as and when we find it. And we'll include links to like all the various training information that we've been sent links to as well.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we can just build a bit of a kind of a library of things on there that might be useful to people.
Yeah. You can keep checking back to measuringuppodcast.com to see if when that goes live, or of course just follow us on Instagram. We are Measuring Up Podcast on Instagram, or indeed Twitter at Measuring Up PC on Twitter. I am at 10 Minute Workshop on Instagram and at 10 Minute Shop on Twitter. Andy, what's yours?
I am Gosforth Handyman on Instagram and Gosforth Andy on Twitter, so you should be able to find us on there. And of course you can follow the show, follow the after show on Patreon, and you've got a whole extra section of podcast. We've had loads of new Patreon supporters over the last...
We've had a real influx of new supporters, and welcome everybody, and wonderful to have had your support. And of course we'd like to thank our special friends who do just that this week.
And we would like to thank Douglas Steele, This'll Do, Brendan at the Shades Workshop, Tim Bowers, Nick Fajardo, Adrian Millington, Chris Davison, Paul Gardner, Eddie Carroll, James Hewitt, Carl Pountney at the Strawbite Workshop, Steve Avery, Peter Tone, Owen Bullock, Tony Carnell, Adam Padley, Chris Mark Duthie, Max Viertz, Mark Duff, and Ben Harker on my side.
And on my side, I'd like to thank Harry Capper, John T. Lynch, Duncan, Chris Stokesmore, Ben Campbell from the Colonel Collective, Jason Williams, Wilson Chan, Kevin Steer, Dominique Kuzinson, Andy Farmer, Randall Davis, David Chisnell, Kevin Miller, Piece of Timber, Jim Hooper, Andrew Marnell, James Mancave, Graham Bailey, Mike Broom, and Rakesh Patel.
And we are officially sold out now on the, if you want to mention on the show, that's it, it's full. So if you do want a shout out on the show, you'll have to wait until someone else drops off. And
it's like a swanky restaurant where you can't get a table until somebody leaves.
Exactly. So at the moment, I'm afraid if you want a shout out, that is now full. Otherwise, the show will turn into just us shouting names out for the entire show.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a bit like the end of my YouTube batch is getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, but there comes a point where you've got to put an end to it, isn't there?
Draw a line, and and that's a good. And we are now talking of drawing lines. We have just passed the halfway mark on our target to start doing weekly shows. So if you're not aware,
yes,
we set a target of 200 patrons, and we are at the point that we're recording this. We're at 101 at the moment, which is amazing.
Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much to all of our patrons who are helping keep the lights on the show. And of course, if you do support the show, you get access to the after show, where we talk about all sorts of other nonsense behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that, of course, is coming up next. I think drawing a line under things. We're going to draw a line under this show. Thank you so much for listening. If you do have the time, please try giving us a rating and a review on iTunes. iTunes reviews and ratings really help push the podcast further up the stack in the iTunes charts. And further up the stack is where we want to be. So if you can spare the time, we have many 5-star reviews on iTunes now. Thank you very much to everybody who's left that review for us. But that's it for this week, I think. Thanks so much for listening. As always, pleasure to have had the pleasure of your company. And we'll see you in the after show.
Have a very, very amazingly Merry Christmas as well. And remember that next week is our final episode of this season. So it's not in 2 weeks' time, it's in 1 week's time.
How did we get this further along?
Honestly,
the season?
It's gone so quick. Again, it's gone crazily quick. But yes, so have a fantastic Christmas, and we will join you on New Year's Eve. And when we'll join all of our patrons on the after show.
Indeed. See you soon.
Bye-bye.